All right.
Ah, so good night, everyone, or good morning, good evening, whenever you see this, and welcome to Breaking Barriers, a fresh approach to mental health and wellness. My name is Amanda Fludd, and I'm joined by my partner in crime here in a good way. In a good way when it comes to mental health, especially. And we are really tackling an important conversation, especially because we're still in a mental health crisis. My name is Amanda Fludd. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, and part of my work is really showing up in spaces as a therapist as well as a mental health consultant and helping organizations learn more about mental health and help their people. Our work is really bringing the skills in a very meaningful way, and you're going to get to experience some of that with us today.
Absolutely. And my name is Katiuscia Gray. I'm also a licensed clinical social worker. In addition to that, I'm also a certified yoga teacher. I am all things mental health and mind-body connection. And this conversation is so important to have because mental health is so much more than just therapy. So throughout this presentation tonight, you're going to hear us talk about more creative ways on helping you manage difficult emotions, because like Amanda said, we're in a crisis. If you ain't know, you're gonna know tonight. We in a crisis, and there is not enough therapists to meet this demand, and there damn sure ain't enough therapists of color to meet this demand. So we need to get creative on helping you guys.
Yeah, which brings us to, why we are here. Let's talk about that. I think like we've said, like we are definitely in a crisis. And in terms of our practice, we've definitely seen more people come in dealing with anxiety, dealing with overwhelm. There's so much more to be worried about. And we're talking about folks that are like high achieving professionals, people in the tech industry, our teachers, our folks working in places like libraries, right? It's become like we always knew mental health impacted everybody, but now we're really seeing it across professions, and folks are struggling, and they're definitely struggling to get into the door. And we notice that, right? And we notice when we go out into places and spaces how much people are like, wow, I didn't even know that I was stressed. I didn't even know that I was overwhelmed. I didn't even know that is what I was experiencing. And they're always grateful that we come in and have these conversations with them. So we're so glad to be able to do that on this platform with you guys. Absolutely. If you're listening, please make sure to share this with somebody right now. Hit like, hit share. If you're catching it later, definitely share this with someone as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. Amanda, our slides disappeared.
Okay, but I'm gonna get it right back. So if you can talk about it, girl, wow, we hear your perspective. I'm gonna go back and forth too, so this way everyone can see us and the slides.
Awesome. So when we talk about, mental health and we talk about wellness, I really want us to talk just a few minutes about what Amanda and I see, because Amanda and I do have our own individual practices where we do provide individual therapy. And we do go out and do plenty of workshops and speaking engagements. For me, just like Amanda said, we see tech people, we see kids, what I'm seeing is a tremendous amount of people who are overwhelmed. And I don't think that they realize how overwhelmed they are because they are putting so much on their plate. Amanda and I have a contract with one of the local high schools, and we see a lot of these sort of high achieving kids. And in these high achieving kids, they have 20 classes that they're taking, right? And they're zooming, they're going to activity, class to class. And I always pause and say to them, you're overwhelmed, and they don't realize how overwhelmed they are. And so if we don't catch it at overwhelmed, it turns into stress. If we don't catch it at stress, it goes into anxiety. And now we're in a whirlpool of a whole bunch of different emotions. So I see a lot of overwhelming, and then I see a lot of people feeling it in their body and having to go to the hospital or to the doctor thinking something's wrong with them, when the reality is they're really just overwhelmed and stressed. What about you, Amanda? What do you see?
Yeah, I mean, and I think the same. I think unfortunately we're seeing it a lot younger, and it kind of like spans across the lifespan, right? So I think as we talk about wellness, we want to make sure that you guys have a good definition of wellness too. So we'd love to hear from you, and you guys that are in the room, we really appreciate you as well. And like we love interactive, right? So we're going to ask you questions. We're going to ask you to join us in this discussion. And if you could share with us your definition of wellness. When you think about it, what does it mean for you? If you could put that in the chat for us.
And whatever comes to mind, there's no rhyme or reason for this.
Yeah, no right or wrong.
Nope.
Yeah. It's good to define though, right? I think we all have different ideas, and it's good to kind of pool those ideas to see where we're at.
Absolutely.
And if you guys do that, we can tell you how we see wellness too.
Excuse me.
And Kat, you want to kick that off? What's your definition of wellness, girl?
My definition of wellness is you really have to, so I'll talk a little bit about myself and my own healing journey. I come from a lot of childhood trauma. I come from a really terrible divorce that I had a number of years ago. And to me, defining wellness in my own healing journey, it was more than just individual therapy for me. Yes, I went back to therapy. Yes, I went to therapy, and therapy really helped heal my mind. But it was really while I incorporated other activities for me that really healed me. And that's why I'm so passionate about yoga and movement and exercise and traveling and eating healthy, right? Wellness is a whole cumulative thing for me, and that's what I practice to people. What about you, Amanda?
I love that, right? Because that gets bigger than what we think about when we think about mental health, right? And just like therapy in itself. For me, it's about getting off the couch actually and getting into the community. I think what I realize, and we talk a lot about this too, is that not everybody is coming to therapy, right? So if we're not coming to the place that's supposed to be like the spot to get your healing on, right? It's like, it takes me back to like Cheers, where you come to the bar where everybody know your name, right? Like therapy's a spot you come to, right? We know your name, we know your story, and we just help you to get better, whatever better means for you. But the fact of the matter is, because of the demand, it's really hard to find a therapist, right? And you'll see this later down the line too, that really percentage-wise, a lot of us, we're not making it here, and for lots of different reasons. Things like time in the day, maybe it's too expensive, maybe it's hard to find someone that really looks like you. So it means that we're not getting the resources to be well. Because therapy is really the skills. It's the skills to navigate life. It's that support to move you through that and really connecting your experiences with what's happening so you can like do the things that you need to do. So for me, like wellness is key. Wellness comes down to knowledge though. It's hard for me to fix something if I don't have the instructions for it. And I see us as like teachers, guiders, healers, and we provide that. But again, we're not getting to everybody. So I think we've got to do a better job of getting us out of this space, getting you off the couch and getting the skills to you.
I agree. That's a great definition. Get off the couch. And yes, look for a therapist, but in conjunction with looking for a therapist, what are you going to do? What else are you going to do? What else are you going to add to the mix?
Yeah. Someone in the room says it's tuning in. Wellness means being in tune with your mind, body, and spirit. And absolutely, I feel like if any part of that is off, you just don't feel like your best self. Right. And that could really show up at any point in your life.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, so let's take a look at what that might even break down to when we talk about it being problematic and showing up in your life.
So when you guys take a look at these statistics online or who's on our site here together, what comes up, right? What sticks out the most to me is over half, 54.7% of adults with a mental illness do not receive treatment. That's a lot of people. That's half of the population. So not to crack a joke, but thinking about me as a single girl now after this divorce, that's kind of scary. Right? Because there's a lot of unhealed people, not just men, but there's a lot of unhealed people walking around worlds.
And we see it more now, right? Because it's really been a shift in services, right? Unfortunately, there's not a lot of money behind mental health, right? So it means that there are longer wait lines, services have decreased significantly. So there's more people out in the community that probably need support, and those on the higher end of the mental health spectrum. And now we have folks that typically would be okay. And like, we're stressed out too, and we're overwhelmed too. So it's like, if there's already a line, like, where are we gonna go?
Yep, absolutely. Anything sticks out to anyone? Is this shocking? Does this resonate? Would you agree? Just drop it in the chat.
I think a big one for me is the number of folks that report at least a serious thought of suicide, right? Like the percent looks really low, but when you look at what that looks like for numbers, like 12.1 million people, like that's wild. I think there's like 1 million people in New York City. So that's like all of New York City, which is bananas. But it's a reality. This year alone, at least 2 people committed suicide from the Google headquarters in New York City, right? And they were both under the age of 35, right? So like this is real and it's significant, right? It's not this far off distant thing anymore. It's very much close to home.
Right. And it's close to home, and it's people that look like us. There's no longer this idea of, oh, you know, it looks like that lady who's talking to herself on the train, that, you know, that mother who's this and that. It looks like us, regular, everyday people who have just put Band-Aids on top of Band-Aids on top of Band-Aids. They ain't no more Band-Aids.
I say we ran out.
We ran out. It's done.
Right.
Now what?
But here's the thing. We've run out, but we still have to be responsible, right? We still have to be parents. We still have to go to work. We still have to mow the lawn, right? Like the responsibilities don't go away because we're overwhelmed, because we're depressed, because we've got thoughts of suicide, right? Because we're stressed out. And like that is significant too. So then again, we've got to figure out, what do we do? Right? Someone said there, it's a very alarming number, and she agrees as well that it does look like us now, right? I think before there was probably some of us, but you know, we like to ignore things, right? Like we see that person on the couch that's not getting up. We know that person that's always in the room. We know that uncle that we don't talk to. So I think it was always in our community, but we didn't talk about it as much. But now we're forced to, because it's just like in our face and in like record numbers, really.
And we can't hide from it anymore. We just can't hide from it.
Yeah. And I think that's why we want to talk about like this idea of breaking the barrier, because it's almost like the elephant in the room, but like the elephant is so big now, it's like, yo, you can't act like you don't see it. And we have to talk about it, and we have to look at creative ways to address it, which is what we're talking about today. And before we even get deeper into that, like, do you even know your personal signs that you are not well and that you need support, right? We want to make sure that you have that information. So emotionally, this is what it can look like. I'm overwhelmed, and overwhelm could show up in different ways. I'm overwhelmed with work. I'm overwhelmed with deadlines. Kat shared about the students in school. Like one kid like passed out in the staircase. Right?
And not only did he pass out, got up when the alarm rang and went right back to class.
Right. And didn't see that as an issue, right? So we're to the point that we're pushing so hard, we don't even know that it's a problem for us anymore. But we want you to pay attention to those signs. Your body will always tell you it's speaking to you. And if you miss that window, that's where we get into places of like physical ailments and illness. That's where we get into places of like emotional issues as well. And so emotionally, this is what to look for. Physically, things like headaches, stomach aches, and cognitively, or in terms of your thinking, your mental well-being, your overthinking, the worry thoughts. We hear that a lot. People can't go to sleep. I can't turn off the thoughts, right? If you're Netflix and chilling, is it really because you want to watch that show? Or is it really because it's hard for you to fall asleep? It's hard for you to settle. You have a lot going on, right? So really tune in.
And can I just add, if we're not listening to our body when it's giving us small little pebbles, small whispers is what I like to say, it's going to scream. And screaming ends up being this. There was a study a couple of years ago, I think prior to COVID, which is probably higher now, that 1 out of every 10 people end up in the emergency room thinking that they're having a heart attack, but it's a panic attack. Honestly, I think those statistics are far higher now. Listen to what I just said. 1 out of every 10. You're thinking that you're having a heart attack, but when all the tests are run, you're having a panic attack, which feels like a heart attack. Your body is screaming. You didn't listen to it when it was whispering to you. So we need to start paying attention.
I mean, let that settle in, right? And think about, like, what am I ignoring? What have I been ignoring? And how's it impacting the different parts of my life? If I can't get to sleep, then I'm waking up tired, right? Then I've got to take on the day. I've got to listen to people and their complaints. I've got to solve problems, but I'm already still so drained. When we're tired, it's hard to do more. So we still go through the day. Now we're still back in that cycle, right? And there's only so much your mind can take. Like, sleep is like the number one sign that emotionally things aren't going well. Right? So sit with that and think about that a little bit.
And not just thinking about it for yourself. If you're a parent, thinking about it for your child, it shows up in our children as well, right? We often have this misconception and this misconstrued ideology that kids don't have problems. You have a roof. I come from that culture as well. Kids don't have problems. You know, you have a roof over your head. We feed you. Little humans have their own issues as well. Not speaking to your friend or having an argument with your friend. It may not be a big deal to us, but it is a big deal to them. And this is how it shows up a lot of times with them.
Right.
So we need to start paying attention to our little people as well.
Right. Right. And outside of their social stress, like, they also experience your stress. So if you're stressed and overwhelmed, they pick up on that, right? Like, you could just be having like a headache and they'll come over like, "Are you okay, Mom? Is everything all right?" Right? They notice that shift in you. You know, same thing, talking to our young people in the high school. We had kids talk about, like, my parents don't talk to each other.
Yep.
How can you imagine if you're not able to resolve your own conflicts and your own, like, emotional issues? How can we imagine that won't affect our children, right? How do we expect them to exist if we can't exist, right? So, you know, they pick up on those things. They've got more exams, they've got college application. There's a bigger push to be higher achievers from a young age. So it's starting earlier. So, I mean, Kat is right. It's our little people have, if anything, big problems too.
And we need to stop looking at it as a small problem, because it's not. But I like what you said, Amanda, that you know, we are the first line for them to learn about how to manage difficult emotions. I didn't learn that until my children got older. I used to have this ideology, because I was raised that way, that we don't tell the kids what's going on, right? We keep that a secret. We keep that amongst each other, right? Kids should know. But then we are teaching them that when we have difficult problems, it's not important to share and talk. So I really shifted how I parented. And now when I'm stressed, I say, I'm sure when I was going through that terrible divorce, they saw me cry. I'm sad. I'm sad. And it's okay to be sad, and it's okay to cry. But tomorrow I'll be fine. It's an important lesson for children to learn.
Yeah, it's that modeling, right? And that's the pattern, like, it shows up in work. So, I mean, I don't want you to think that because we're talking about this in the context of family, like, it doesn't apply to work. When you go to work, if you don't know how to express yourself, right, that can become an issue. If you're a leader that's stressed and overwhelmed, like, how are you going to lead, you know, your team? Or if you feel like you need to be that superwoman at work too, but you're overwhelmed and you're not letting people in to get help, like, that's an issue too. So it just plays out all across
all over your life. It plays out. So it starts at childhood, then home, then raising children. Now you at work and someone says, hey, can you pass me that pen? And you want to be like,
yes. And then you take that home and they're like, I just asked you for dinner, Mom.
because I'm hungry.
Right. And I'm not trying to be sexist here either, because it could be dad too, right? Or why ain't dad talking to us, right? Because he's busy, overwhelmed too, right? It may show up differently for us, but we're all kind of going through this, and it brings us back to how important it is that we tune into it, but we know what to do with it, and we can't just wait till it's like problematic, right, to be on the couch with it. So one of the things that we love to share is this idea of connecting like your mind and your body, and we're also going to connect it to work as well, because that's where you spend most of your day, and like we're saying, it goes across the board from family into that life. So I want to take a moment to walk us through just a quick mindfulness practice. This one is like a affirming one. And mindfulness is really about tuning into what's happening now. Because what we realize that happens is, for most people, we're thinking about everything. We're thinking about what's going to happen tomorrow. Maybe we're thinking about things that happened in the past that wasn't helpful. But when we're future focused in particular, we are stressed. Like, what if this happens? What if it doesn't? Oh my God, this, like, how am I going to get into this college? How am I going to deal with tomorrow? I don't even want to wake up tomorrow because my to-do list is so long. And your mind and your body communicates. So then it starts to feel that same angst that you feel, that same rate that you're speaking, your body is picking up that pace too. And it doesn't feel good. So mindfulness says, well, girl, come back to the moment, right? Like, dude, you can't deal with tomorrow, deal with right now. Right? And a big way that we do that is we anchor ourselves to the breath. So I'm going to ask you, wherever you are, just to take a quick, get your body situated and just get your feet flat on the floor if you can. Kind of get your body up, just kind of notice it for a second. And I'm going to invite you to just take a big breath, right? So big breath in and let that go. Good. And if you can just close your eyes if you're comfortable and just notice what you're feeling. Notice what's happening physically. Notice what you're thinking. Right, am I thinking about getting to the next thing? Do you notice any tension in your body? Just notice. Right, that's what the present feels like. This is what your present feels like. Okay, taking another big breath in through your nose. Good, and out through your mouth. Good, we're gonna take another breath. Let it go. Good. And just allow your breathing to relax and just trust yourself as you continue breathing and just noticing your breath, and allow you to just tune into your breath for a little bit. And if you get distracted or your mind wanders, just come back to your breath. Good. As you're noticing, notice where your body feels tense. Focus your attention on those areas. And as you breathe in, picture that part of your body becoming slightly more relaxed with that out breath. So breathing in into that tension area, breathing out, and allowing it to melt into the floor, sinking deeper into the ground. Each breath, allow the parts of your body to become more and more relaxed. Breathing in relaxation, breathing out tension. Breathing in calm, and letting all the tension go as you exhale. Good. For a moment, just enjoy how you feel in that space. If it feels good, smile, and hold that smile for a few breaths. calm, it's safe here. You're at peace with yourself here. Now, as we strengthen who you are at the core, I want you to imagine all of the following affirmations are true for you right now in this moment. As I say them, you can repeat them to yourself in your mind or out loud with conviction, because you deserve that. Whatever feels good to you. Big breath in. Let that go. First one, I am at peace with myself. I am the most important person in the room. I deserve to relax. I accept the person that I am. I do not have to be perfect. I am okay as I am. I accept myself. I feel secure. I am at peace. Good. As you just sit here for another couple seconds, just relax into that space and just noticing. Good. And we're going to come back to the room, taking one big breath in and exhale. Good. One more big breath. Feeling that calm and confident self and letting that go. Good. All right. So hopefully you got to tune into your body for a second and reconnect to you. And you can let me know how that feels in the chat for sure. And that is just a mind connection, right? And using our breath, which you can use at any time to get grounded, to get you, it's not just about being relaxed, but it's like a byproduct of it. But essentially mindfulness is coming back home to where you are right now.
Yeah. And so moving on to meditation and the body and physical movement. And why is that so important is because stress and worry and anxiety and all sorts of our mental health issues get stored and trapped in the body. Remember, these are all connected. They're all connected. And so when we are feeling stressed or worried or anxious or overwhelmed, your bones starts hurting. You start getting headaches. Your legs gets really stiff. Your muscles gets really tightened. So when we're moving, specifically with yoga or whatever exercise that you want, but I'm going to use yoga here, specifically for yoga, it allows you to meditate and concentrate and bring all your awareness into breathing and the movement. And when we start connecting the breath to the body, you start loosening up those muscles, which starts to release the stress in you, right? So I want to just take a few minutes to just kind of do just a really quick, what we call twist, right? And so this could be done at work. This could be done at your desk. I do this often in between patients, just because I actually just went on a trip recently on a 23-hour trip. And when we had a layover, my body was so stiff because I was so busy worried about, God damn it, when are we going to get there? I've been on this plane for 23 hours. So instead of me freaking out and getting worried, I took a pause and I stretched. So I'm going to ask you guys to find yourself in a comfortable position wherever you are, whether that's your chair, whether that's your bed, but if you can sit up. And we're going to inhale, bring our arms up overhead. And then we're going to exhale. We're going to twist to the right. You're going to take your right hand and place it behind you. And then you're going to take your left hand and place it on the upper part of your hip. And then you're going to look up towards the ceiling for that nice twist there. And you're going to pause here and inhale through the nose. Exhale out the mouth. Inhale through the nose. Exhale out the mouth. Now let's inhale, bring our arms up overhead. We're going to twist to the other side. Now take the left hand, place it behind the back, and then take the right hand and place it on the upper thigh. Excuse me. Look up towards the ceiling. Close your eyes here and take a deep breath in through your nose. Exhale out of your mouth. Deep inhale in through your nose. Exhale out of your mouth. Inhale, bring our arms up. Inhale. Exhale, bring our hands back to heart center. Close your eyes here. Deep inhale in. Exhale out. And open your eyes. And that was just a really quick movement exercise, connecting your mind to your body. Amanda calls it meditation. I called it mindfulness. It's all essentially the same thing. We're all just trying to figure out how to anchor ourselves to the present moment so we don't get overwhelmed and stressed.
So let us know how you're feeling in the chats. Hopefully you're feeling like just rejuvenated, right? Because it's these little practices that really help us to get back on track and really kind of get through life despite what's going on. And, you know, the last part about this, we did mind, we did the body, and the last part about this is work. And when we think about work, we're really thinking about, you know, whatever's happening inside becomes a reflection on the outside, right? So if I am distracted on the inside, I'm overwhelmed, I'm tired, it's hard for me to be present in my work. Right? If I'm worried about deadlines, it's hard for me to be present in my work, right? So for us to be more productive at work, I think it becomes really critical for us to think about how do we take care of our emotional selves even in our workspaces. And we tend to not do that, right? We tend to put ourselves last, even at work.
Yep. We're not taking our PTOs. We're not taking lunch breaks. We're not even taking 5 minutes to use the bathroom. Sometimes when me and Amanda are out and about doing these workshops, there is so many people that actually admit to us that they've been holding in their urine until the end of the day. What?
I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes I get caught up in my work too, and I'm like, "Oh, girl," and then that's the worst. Because when you get to the bathroom, you gotta hurry up.
Right.
But it's because we're not tuning in, and like we've decided that work is more important. And I think there's like, again, like that's a whole deep conversation, like culturally, right? We're both immigrants, right? And we know that experience and the value of work, but sometimes we put so much value there, right? That ourselves, like it's not even in the equation.
That you start to get lost in this idea of work becomes your life, not your life becomes work. So I like to say, are you a participant in your life? Are you just observant? A participant is, listen, I'm exhausted. I'm going to take I got 5 days. I'm going to take my PTO and I'm going to relax, and I'm not answering emails and I'm not taking any calls. I'll see you when I come back. An observer is, I don't use the bathroom for 8 hours because I'm stressed out and I got to keep on working. And now, guess what? I got a bladder infection.
Guess what? I think I'm having a heart attack, but it's really stress and anxiety. Man.
So be a participant in your life, not an observer.
Yeah. And we've got to give ourselves permission to really find balance and be okay with that. Right? Balance could be, I could take that day off work, it's going to be here the next day, and you can still show up better for your work. It doesn't take away from it. Challenge those ideas around taking a break.
Absolutely.
Right? Many of us fall victim to this idea that the organization will not function without us.
Yep. Who you telling?
so replaceable, right? And think
So
about it, right?
replaceable.
And biggest example, like COVID, right? Like we lost so many people with COVID, which always blows my mind because it's like we don't even talk about those people anymore. It's like life just continued on, but it's exactly that, right? We lose people, various reasons, from retirement to things in between. Work doesn't stop.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Right.
Actually, HR is going to call somebody tomorrow and you'll be replaced. They're going to call in a temp and that temp will take your permanent position. So
not even, it's going to be somebody at the job. Now you've got a whole nother role and responsibility that you ain't even realized. You don't know what to do, but you got to figure it out.
Yep.
Right. And now you got to figure out, I didn't have any time before, but now I have this extra demand as well. Right.
Absolutely.
And like, we get that too. We want to be like fair to that from a work standpoint. Sometimes, we have different needs as an organization and we do have to share the responsibilities out in a different way. But even with that, how can we be mindful of the well-being of our people, right? And how can we balance that a little bit better? And that's where this conversation comes in. Like, how do we break the barriers? How do we break the stigmas, the expectations, and how do we make mental health more sustainable even within our workplace, right? And Kat and I were all about connecting with or where people spend their time. So like we're doing this with you guys here, we're sharing it on social media, keeping the conversation going. We go into spaces like libraries and have conversations about this, because who would think that a librarian might be stressed and overwhelmed, but absolutely. Yep. There's something called vicarious trauma. Trauma is contagious. Yep. You could just hear something or see it from the folks that you work with and it has an impact on you. But do you know how to deal with that? Do you know how to recognize that?
Yeah. And so I like to say, wherever there is people, children, adults, adolescents, workers, you need this conversation, right? And we need to have these conversations and we need to have creative ways on continuing this conversation, because based on this workshop and what we see now that you guys are seeing, it's bigger than just one-on-one therapy. It's bigger. We need way more support than just one-on-one therapy. Someone said in the chat that we need more mental health therapists that look like us. We need more representation. Unfortunately, the statistics is we're only 2% of the population, 2%. So if we're only 2% of therapists of color, we have to get creative on how to have more conversations like this and more workshops and things like this at work, at schools, everywhere.
Right. Really bringing it out there and looking at it from a different lens. I think for us, it's about looking at it from an emotional lens, really, because we're not getting this education anywhere else. And we don't want you to wait till you have to need therapy to be here. We want you to be able to find it. So like we do things like trauma-informed care, preventing stress and burnout, doing engaging and interactive workshops for our parents, for our children, and even teaching you how to advocate for your needs as well, even on the leadership level, right? This is about both sides knowing what they need and knowing how to really support each other and our teams. And what we've learned is that the organizations that really address mental health, you see the benefits, right? There's reduced absenteeism, people are actually coming to work, and they're not just coming to work distracted and Googling the next job, but they're present. Right. And that means you're actually producing more, people are performing better, our culture and community is in a better place, right? So it makes sense that we figure out how to invest in this and how to make it sustainable.
Absolutely.
Right. So that brings us to the end of this. I think the most important parts, I'll tell you my most important part, maybe Kat, you could tell us your most important part, right? For me is that you take away that mental health is a big problem, but it's also a close to home problem. And it's something that we've got to get creative with in how we address it. And the things that we do, like some of the tools and exercises you guys get to experience today, we should have access to that, right? As a teacher, I should have access to that. If I work in a library, if I'm a lawyer, if I'm a police officer, if I'm a nurse, I should have access to trainings like this on a regular basis so that I know that I'm okay and I could better show up for everybody.
Absolutely. And for me, it really is about having these sort of creative conversations and having them in your offices, like lunch and learns. Amanda and I have done tremendous amount of lunch and learns for businesses and organizations. We've gone into the school and done things at the after school. We've done professional development for teachers. We've done things in the library to keep this conversation going and giving people skills. So for me, the most important thing is, how do we implement this more in the working fields or in any field? So if you guys know anybody, right? Right. If you guys know anybody, if you guys have any referrals, if you guys think that this is a great concept to add into any sort of program that you're a part of, drop it in the chat.
And let's figure out how to connect and really close the gaps, right? Because it's growing wider, it's not closing quite yet. So we've got to be intentional in how we address mental health and wellness, right? And we told you guys about the young people at the school, like they're overwhelmed to the point that they're falling out. And those are the same young people that grow up to be people at work that can't navigate stress and overwhelm, right? The same people that Google is trying to figure out now, how do we support our people, right? Because we're going over buildings. That should not be happening, right? And we're hearing
that kid
too much.
Or that kid who was in the hallway who passed out. And then when the bell rang, he got back up and went to class like nothing. And meanwhile, he was having a massive heart attack. Excuse me, a massive panic attack.
Panic attack, right? Or like Twitch, that was a big loss for our community.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone, right? Because again, we can look like we're okay. We're very good at masking and hiding our stuff, especially as people of color. We know how to be strong until we don't know how to be strong, right? So, you know, guys, if you have any thoughts and ideas for us, we are always here to hear and listen and figure out how we can collaborate. Our information is there, 2mentalhealthconsultants@gmail.com. If you scan that QR code and put in the word talk, you can also leave us some feedback just on this. And then it's another way for us to connect with you as well. Even if you're not sure, again, sometimes the best thing you can do is share this, right? Screenshot this, share it with somebody. Listen, I went on a great conversation today and maybe you can benefit from it, right? We grow, or we're really as good as our network. Right? So we're really counting on you guys to open up doors for us, because we're ready and we're willing to come in and really have conversations that make a difference, and sustainable ones, right? It's not just about that one conversation. Sometimes it's a series, sometimes it's ongoing workshops, sometimes it's a full assessment of your organization and what your needs are. Sometimes it's office hours designed for your people. We actually just created a program with one of our local schools where some of their youth, their displaced youth, they have like direct access to us, right? So we can really do some wonderful things if we are given the opportunity to have that conversation, and we need more of it.
We need more of it. So if you guys know anyone, think where this would be great, drop it in the chat or put in, take a picture of that QR code.
Yeah. Wonderful.
Hey.
Good feedback. Good to see that you were refreshed. Good to see that this was amazing, but don't let amazing stop. I think that's like the heartbreaking part for us, right? When we know that we could help more and it isn't just a moment of feeling good. We want to really create like consistency with that sustainability.
Absolutely.
All right. Absolute pleasure, guys. Thank you for joining us. And again, I'm Amanda Fludd.
And I am Katiuscia Gray. Thank you so much for joining us.
You can find us at 2mentalhealthconsultants@gmail.com, and we're both on socials at Therapy is Dope.
And I am at mind-movement_counseling. Hope you follow us, like, share. Let's get our community healed.
Yes, amen to that.